So, first of all, can I request everyone to settle down, please? Thank you. I'll probably spend the next 15 to 20 minutes talk about leadership strategy with a few examples once again, and spend a little more time on the opportunities that are available for all of us. I'll continue on from the two examples that I started with this morning about the Industry Association, NASSCOM, and ICT Academy. Both those institutions started first with a challenge or an opportunity. NASSCOM was founded at a time when there were serious and severe restrictions on the part of the restrictions imposed by the government of India for the import of computers into the country. This is in the early 70s, late 70s, when the industry wanted high-end computing to be imported into the country, and because of our balance of payment situation, lack of foreign exchange, it was not permitted. So while individual companies were trying to reach the government, hence requesting them to approve import of computers individually for their own specific companies, like for example, Tata's were the first one to approach the government, was refused, and subsequently a few others asked, it was refused. And that's when the industry decided to get together and show the combined strength and the opportunity to the government, saying if you allow us to import computers, we will export software to the tune of twice the amount of foreign exchange that we spend in importing. So the original STPI rules, etc., they used to track what is the quantum of export to make sure that there is net balance of payment surplus to the country. So it was a problem that was seen as an opportunity by the industry players, and NASSCOM was formed. And I narrated the example of ICT Academy, which saw the challenge of non-availability of skilled people on the one side, and aspirations of people from the interior parts of the country who wanted to be part of the growing IT industry, and which was the challenge, which was seen as an opportunity by ICT Academy, and then they grew. So the first point that all of us start with is, what is the problem? What is the challenge? Is that challenge an opportunity for me? Okay. I'll give you one more very interesting example that I thought of when Mr. Vinay Mishra was talking about. He was talking about so many different schemes that are available. It's impossible for us to keep track of how many such schemes are there for the software industry. And this problem is not unique. In the drive towards providing benefits for the disadvantaged in the country, the government of India and the state governments have launched so many schemes. Schemes for the Kisan, schemes for MSME, schemes for individuals, direct benefit transfer. You'll be surprised, combined together, all the state schemes and all the central government schemes that have been announced so far, there's something like 1,800 schemes that are available for the poor people, for the people below the poverty line, which they cannot take advantage of. If you ask an ordinary person in an interior part, even in a place like Madurai, there is a scheme because you're jobless or because you're physically challenged. There is a facility that's available that the government provides that individual wouldn't know. Okay, there's no point just launching these schemes and expecting people would come to that. So there was an innovative company called Hak Darshak, I don't know how many of you have heard of that company called Darshak. Very celebrated company, social sector company. They took on the challenge and said, my job is to knock on the doors of people who are disadvantaged and help them secure the benefits of whichever scheme is applicable to them. So with that was born, they will go and identify a person in Bihar sitting in a village, and he'll say, okay, you're educated, but you're unemployed. This is the appropriate scheme for you. Do you have your Aadhaar? Do you have all these details? And make sure that that person gets the benefits from that scheme. Okay? They took the responsibility and the ownership for connecting people with that. That's Akdarshak now is a 30,000 people organization, providing just this service of connecting people with benefits that are given by the government of India. So, I know you would have guessed when Mishra was talking about so many different schemes, there is an opportunity for someone here to create an Akdarshak and connect the software companies or individuals into any one of those schemes that you can participate in. And that's not the only scheme. I mean, there are lots and lots of, the government's National Research Foundation and the RDI Research Development and Innovation Fund of 1 lakh crores that they've identified that they invest in venture capital funds. That's also a scheme that is going to be very difficult to participate in, but those are attempts by the government that they are trying to promote the industry. But companies are born out of individual entrepreneurship, individual leadership ability. You see a problem, there is a driving passion to solve that problem, and then you say, I want to solve that problem, and therefore I start a company or I participate in an activity that will solve that problem. 2, there is an opportunity that I can create for myself. I can create a market for myself and participate and be the leader in that. The most famous example is Apple. The first product that they created, the iPod for music. So that was a product. There was no need, there was no felt need at that point of time. Even if there was a need to listen to music when you're mobile, wherever you are, it was fully fulfilled by the Sony Walkman and products of that nature. But Apple said, I'm going to create a new market for a product. And consistently they have been creating the markets. And the case study that highlights how new innovation happens has been fairly well documented. To put it in simple terms, it is the 4 stages that companies go through, or 4 stages innovation goes through. Most innovation happens at the intersection of, or the convergence of, multiple technologies. For example, the first convergence is the knowledge convergence. The entire technology industry is based on knowledge convergence. We have the IEEE as an industry association, which is the only association that was known in the 50s and 60s, electrical and electronic engineers. Then ACM, the computing and the communication, came about. Those two, at the point of convergence of these two, started the IT industry, the ICT Academy and things of that nature. So that's where the knowledge from multiple diverse sectors converge. Knowledge convergence leads to innovation. After that is the technology convergence. Technology convergence, to put it in simple terms, you can look at it as device convergence. You have an Apple iPhone to which you add a gyroscope, to which you add a camera, to which you add something else, so on and so on and so on. So the devices convergence, the technology convergence happens. And the third one is the model convergence. You can do all that, but is it something that the people would want? And if they do want it, how do I distribute it to them? And the final convergence has to be on the financial model, or the financial convergence. if I were to come up with a model, for example, the model that again Apple came up with was music, buy music, download music and pay for it. The subscription model is something that emanated from there, and then they make money. So if you have the knowledge convergence, the device, the technology convergence, the business model convergence, and the financial convergence, you can do. It's a great idea, and each of the ideas can be evaluated using some of these parameters, and that gets to the leadership position. Now, as far as leadership goes, you can look at leadership of individuals, and in the same context, look at leadership of companies. What do leaders do? Is there anything that is unique in terms of educational qualification? Is there anything, the background, where they come from, what idea they got, etc.? Pretty much nothing. There are people who are highly qualified who have succeeded as leaders, or people who have not been highly qualified who have also succeeded as business leaders. So there is no common factor there. But what is common among all these people is about the four things they usually talk about. First and foremost is leaders perform, leaders deliver. Whatever they are committed, leaders deliver results. And people who deliver graduate up to leadership positions. Two, leaders communicate very effectively. Their idea, their vision, their passion, their execution. Communication, they excel. They communicate to the market and sell. Three, leaders work very effectively in building teams and working within teams. Okay. And finally, leaders are the epitome of values and the culture in the company. The culture of any company is the behavior of the leader. So almost all the successful leaders will have these qualities. Very capable communicators, very, very capable in terms of driving results and performing, work in a team, inclusive, put together the brightest people, always provide that integrity. If they commit to something, they'll deliver. My word is equal to delivery. That's the type of thing that they recommend. And the fifth is mastery. Some of the leaders have mastery on the subject that they work in. So you can apply the same thing to the industry or the company that you work with. Is the company a master in what it is trying to do? There are so many IT services companies. How do you differentiate each one? If you want to start the next one, you've got to be significantly higher above all the others that are present there. This is that Peter Thiel's theory of 0 to 1. He says if you're just like any other company, very little chance that you'll succeed. But if you have a completely differentiated model, if you have the mastery in what you're trying to do, you have a good chance of becoming a leader. Leaders perform. Companies that have a good idea, innovative idea, a good team, they deliver to their customers so that the customers keep coming back and they grow, they perform, they deliver results, and so on. You can do that comparison yourself. So those are qualities of individuals as well as companies that determine overall success and growth of these companies. Leaders also define the vision and the strategy. Vision, I'm sure all of you, those are the things, those are the words of the targets and the purpose of the company that are very well articulated. But strategy is something that is a little more tricky to define. Strategy is, in simple words, strategy is not a complex thing. It's like, as a company, you want to be here. Your aspiration is to be whatever in terms of financial goals or in terms of serving the people or in terms of number of customers or developing a product or a platform. You want to be here. This is where you are. You are starting somewhere. What are the 5 steps? What are the 6 steps? How do I build? What is the ladder that I'm going to build in order to get there? So that defines the strategy. Okay. So that definition of how you're going to get there is something that you have to be clear in your mind at the start. strategy, and then what they call the structure follows. So all this we'll take and try and tie it with an example as we go towards the end and the next 5 minutes. So if you look at the defined vision and the steps that you have to take to get there, then you have achieved the overall purpose using the strategy that you have defined yourself. So we talked about the opportunity which comes out of challenges and problems or new innovations, leadership that you want to take, a strategy, the culture, structure, etc. that follows those things. In today's context, the biggest opportunity that we see ahead of us is the AI opportunity. AI, everybody believes, will solve phenomenal number of problems. And there are detractors also, like any technology, anything new. During the internet time, we had the dot-com bust, the bubble bursting, and then it took off. So we will have those two detractors. But AI is one of the biggest opportunities that is in front of us. And the advantage for people like us here in this room, people like you in Madurai, is you can leapfrog from wherever you are into the new technology, and you don't have to go through the various steps that some of the other companies had to go through. People, a 30-year-old company would have had to go from one technology to the next technology, to the networking technology, to the internet technology, to the digital transformation technology, and now to the AI revolution. Maybe you can skip all of them and say, I'm going to start straight away in the AI area. The advantage of doing that is you are at the same level at all the other companies as far as starting. And you have today's, the biggest innovation that happened is the open innovation, open research, open products. Whatever happens in terms of research, be it in the pharmaceutical area, the technology area, or the semiconductor area, the papers are published immediately, and that is available worldwide instantaneously. So whoever wants to take advantage of that would become the leader, whoever takes it first. So we are in that situation. We are in that situation. If you want to start something, the application level, for example, AI, which is just about 3 years old with all the LLM and the Gen AI and all the open software that's available. The foundational models are not very many. You started with about 4 or 5 foundational algorithms and models. Today, maybe there are about 35, 40 or 50 such models that are available, all of which can be accessed by any one of us. But the application models, the algorithms where they are specifically applied, that number has already crossed 2 million. 2 million AI models and algorithms are available for individual specific cases, whether it's in the healthcare area or in the financial services area, predicting share price, looking at images, X-ray images and predicting diagnosing it, things of that nature. There's 2 million applications. And it's expected that in the next 3 to 4 years, that number will reach 10 million. For every single problem, we will have an application model, which is where we can play. The other power, infrastructure, network, etc. Those are expensive. That's something that people would provide. So if you look at the opportunities in that specific area, and if you want to get into the leadership position, identifying the problem, working on it, defining a clear strategy, and with a single-minded focus, pursue that, you have a chance of becoming a leader in that particular area. So it's quite as simple as that. And what is available for us, for those of you who want to do something in the AI area, there are 2 things. I think some part of it was mentioned about doing something indigenous. There are several initiatives. In future, if you imagine a world where for developing software or developing code, you don't need to learn any language except your natural language. If I have to solve a problem using software, I just state my problem and I want this is what needs to be done. in my language and my voice, the code gets generated. Utopia. That's the type of world that people are thinking about. Natural language itself is the language for programming. For that to happen, you require enormous computing power. And you need to, particularly in a country like India where we have multiple languages, we need enormous research and natural language processing, NLPs. Both of which are well underway. Bharat Sarvam is the language translator model, which translates, understands the syntax, semantics of many languages, and it's improving. And the application models that can be used to connect with these languages by BharatGen is available. And there are two large initiatives that are currently underway. One is Sovereign AI Stack and Sovereign AI Infrastructure. Sovereign AI infrastructure is compute. It's basically if you want 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt of computing power, it's very difficult for even large corporations to invest that kind of money. So the government of India is saying that we will invest in sovereign AI infrastructure and provide that for all the industry. The announcement that you saw about the data center, giving a tax holiday for the data center investment in the country till 2047 is one such initiative. There are some key people who are working on it, including the person who's leading that charge now is Professor Ganesh Ramakrishnan from IIT Bombay, who is part of BharatGen. So he's putting together the sovereign architecture. So if you keep track of what's happening in that new area, there are plenty of opportunities for you to grow, build a company, and it is going to be easier for you to get into leadership position in a new area than to establish your leadership in an area that's already crowded. Okay, you want to do digital transformation, there are 20 other people doing it. You want to set up systems for somebody, so many others who are doing it. I'm not saying that that's not an area that you should pursue, but it's a little more difficult there. Some of the new areas, it may be relatively easy for you to build a good strategy and get into a good leadership position. So with these thoughts, I'll conclude whatever I wanted to say. Look for the opportunities, look for the challenges that people are facing, identify a solution that's significantly better than whatever is available in the market, pursue it with a single-minded passion.
Taught us how to become a leadership personality. And now it is time for the people in the floor to throw away the questions.
When the NASSCOM was formed, they were asking you allow us a cheaper hardware import and we will give back much more in soft techs. So what would be NASSCOM doing today if it is formed to be forming today? So what is your thoughts on that?
What would NASSCOM do today is what it has already done in the last few months. One is I talked about the AI infrastructure. Two things that the NASSCOM is indicating to the government, saying it's all good that you can import all these computers and make it available to us, this compute. The AI summit that's going to happen in the next few days. This is only the third or the fourth time it's happening, the global AI summit, and it has come to India the fourth time. Earlier one was in US, I think the previous one was in France, and now in India. So where the demands of the industry is going to be put forth. One somewhat unusual demand that the industry has is the power, electricity. Enormous amount of power is going to be required for these computes and these data centers. So much so, as you all know, they don't measure computing power in terms of teraflops or petaflops or storage anymore. They measure it in terms of how many gigawatts of power that it is going to consume. Okay. So one of the requests by the industry today is, how fast can you get nuclear power or whatever power that you want to get into the country? The government has also relaxed its rules as far as nuclear power is concerned. They permitted private sector to invest in nuclear power. I mean, it's a phenomenal change as far as the government is concerned. So much so that we've got something like 8 gigawatts of nuclear energy that we generate now. In the next 10 to 15 years, the government's aspiration is to take that 8 gigawatts of nuclear power to 100 gigawatts of nuclear. And that requires something like 30 small modular reactors all over the place. So the request from the industry is to really think big. Big computing power is required, for which big power infrastructure is required. And satellite connection is required. No longer can we rely on people throwing cables on rooftops and connecting homes and offices. That's not going to work. How are we going to connect up with Starlink? You know, it'll be exciting for you to know. Look at SpaceX. SpaceX is launching that the Starlink program. On an average, from the beginning of on an average, they launch about 1.5 to 2 rockets every single day. Each rocket carries something like, they've carried 100 satellites, 150 satellites, small units that are circling, will provide global coverage as far as connectivity is concerned. It is believed that Elon Musk's vision is to set up data centers in space, because there you don't have the problem of cooling, you don't have the problem of dust. There are so many of these infrastructural problems that can be solved. Just set up ISS type of space stations with computing power, connected wirelessly to the rest of the country. We experiencing, I'm sure many of you have high-speed bandwidth brought to you directly through a Geo dish or an Airtel dish. That's not novel anymore, but that will become ubiquitous as you go forward. So if you imagine that kind of a future that's going to happen, the demand from every industry association is to liberate. Give us the freedom so that we can invest and progress.
Hello sir, this is Ravi here. So at present, we are exploring the opportunities in software and technology, and to be candid, like earlier awareness about the industry, how it works and kind of a thing, but the recent government initiatives and strategic focus, like we are able to see some kind of a substantial opportunities in the defense industry segment. But how do we approach ourselves into this industry, and what are the recommended business models that would help us to get into this segment and provide solutions, and also like we need to make sure that we have the win some kind of a credibility into these industries. So what are the steps you suggest now?
Yeah, that's caught up. That's quite a, you can sit down, sir. It's there is a company in Chennai called Data Patterns. I don't know, it's a public listed company. You can look at that. Data Patterns is providing, they predominantly develop equipment for the defense forces. The cockpit for fighter jets and helicopters, etc., are developed by them indigenously. And the key requirement as far as supplying to defense is concerned is it has to be almost completely indigenous, particularly the chips, the software, because national security is involved. Okay, so the government is extremely careful in procurement of hardware and software from the industry. So it is a much higher level. The one source that you have where most people contact is the IDEX program, IDEX program. Okay, I'm sure you are aware of that. So any innovative idea in the field of any new technology that can be applied to the defense forces, you take it to IDEX and you'll get some good funding. I'll give you 2 examples of IDEX beneficiaries. A startup called Astrome in Bangalore, ASTROME. That's a 5G telecom company. Developed a unique MIMO model in telecom. That MIMO is one of those was pioneering multiple input, multiple output type of this thing. So it provides a much larger coverage. A typical cell tower will probably provide a 250 meter or a 500 meter coverage. This technology would provide a coverage of up to 10 kilometers, which is something that the defense forces would require in the border areas. Okay. So that's a technology. And for them to develop the technology, they've got the technology, but it runs on some imported chips. Okay. And this was seen as an opportunity by a company called Agnit, AGNIT, coming out of Indian Institute of Science, out of the Center for Nanoscience, CNSE. They said, okay, then we have to start from the wafers if we have to do it. And so they have a gallium nitride wafer producing foundry, small capacity foundry, on which chips are built, on which the Astrom, this thing is built. Both are IDEX funded. So they have that basic idea on which they are working, and once it reaches a certain stage, they take it to IDEX, and then IDEX takes it to the defense forces and says, is this a workable idea, should I fund it? And they fund it. Similarly, there is a BIRAC program as far as biology is concerned. BIRAC, Ministry of Biotechnology provides funding. These are grants, money that they give away. They don't expect anything in return. If they believe that, let's say you're developing a vaccine that has great potential, they'll provide you the fund to develop it. If it succeeds, terrific. They don't want anything. If it fails, too bad. They've lost the money, you've lost your time. So organizations like, when it comes to defense, you have to depend predominantly on the government. But when it comes to biotechnology, of course, you have pharma companies and you don't have to depend on the government all the time.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
The AI adoption. So my own question is, as you mentioned, the NLP can able to use, anyone can build their solution using the tech. Okay. As a tech company, what one thing we have to improve, or else how can we face these challenges to make a difference from the NLP? Which means, as a tech company, how can I use the NLP to scale up the next level?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what is the automatically developed code? Anthropic says software companies, they have no right to exist because we can develop all the code. So much so, there's a new word that they coined. They would be apocalypse. They call SaaSpocalypse. All the SaaS companies will go under, is what they said. It's not really true, but it's a dramatic way of saying it. But the key thing that is still we are battling with as far as the AI area is concerned is testing. You know, it can generate code, but can you just confidently directly use that code that is generated by these AI systems into production and make it available to all the customers and consumers? No, not yet. So there is that human in the loop that they always talk about. And as far as the software industry is concerned, testing systems, you can give a oral command. You can give a very promptly engineered code or request. It will come up with solutions. But is that scalable? Is that workable? It still has to be tested. So the biggest opportunity that most people are chasing in the AI area is setting up testing fields to test this code on specific use cases and certifying that the AI generated code is all right, and simultaneously using the test output and what they have found to teach the models so that they can improve and they don't make the same mistakes again. So that's a huge opportunity for, all of us. Just the area of testing code generated by AI. Because nobody is going to directly deploy it at the diffusion scale. It's if you follow that model, the IBM always talks about this model of invention, innovation, and diffusion. Invention is new knowledge, new models, new things that come up. Innovation is applying those new fundamental models into specific use cases or application areas. And once you know that it works, diffusion, which is scaling it up to multiple areas. The first step in diffusion is testing and quality assurance, which is an area of big opportunity for all of us.